All right, we're picking this up where we are creating a profile from surface. So I'm going to hit cancel here and do the same thing. So you can see we have actually made an alignment. We have left some things that we are going to actually use later on as targets around. We actually should eventually use them as polylines, and they probably even should be in the right direction. This road is going this way unless it was going the other way. You've left some targets, some circles, some notes around at what your key points were, so you don't have to draft above them. And now you've made a alignment. You go to profile, create surface profile. You make sure that you named it correct. You do from the list. You grab what you want, in this case the top and the existing. You could grab all three, but you really don't want all three, and in the end you probably might only want one. You would resist the rotation to draw on the profile view, and you hit OK. You assume that that went to the right spot, so before you take off you say -V for view, W for window, and you say Cul De Sac. Plan _ Cul De Sac, or whatever you're going to call it. In this case you're making a view here, but that's really not a logical view. Later on you'll see you'll want to be making a view frame that fits that road. You know where you want to put it, so you go over to the profile view, you create a profile view, and then you get a little worried because, oh, I got some layers that are frozen. So you might at this point go Layer Manager and go back to all on thawed or before corridor freeze and restore. You do not want to kind of get to a point where you're putting these things around and you get thrown by the fact they're not where you think they are. You actually go to profile view, create a profile view. You go to the right thing. You go to the station range, and you know at this point you just get so lazy you don't want to do it, but you can move it once it gets there. You write down 19950.37. Probably could do a little bit better on that because of how you started it. And then you look at the height and you think about how up and down. The reason why you're changing this and saying 970 or something like that, and you might even want to increase this one if you want, is that you want to think that you're going to actually type it in correctly. So you can go through here and change your options if you want. I would not recommend it, or your data bands if you want. But the fact is, you can go back and change them easily just as well. So you're going to create a profile view, and it's going to ask you where it goes. If you're just sussing, well, it works okay, you could just 19950.37. You could have subtracted off 1,000 right then, and then comma 9700. You write in the 970, you hit 0 once, not twice. This will get things to the right spot. You would like to, at this point, even go back now to your alignment here and realize that, boy, you had a point of intersection here at 147.94.88, so you can now do this in that same kind of layer that you might be working on. Don't lose your layer toolbar. Right-click, layers, and so there it is. You don't want to be on plot sheet border. I don't know why it sends you there, but you might want to be on Z, or you might want to be on news layer Z _ constraints. And you go ahead and now draw a line in the profile world from 147.94.88, 0, and then at about 1,000,000 at an angle of 90 degrees. And hopefully it's there. You go V for view, overall south, overall plan, overall profile, set current, okay. And at that you see, well, oh, that's where I'm matching in, and you see that high point there, and you look around and there's yours over here, and you want to check that it's in the right spot. So you go and you find an ID. You look for an intersection point if you can, but it doesn't always find those intersections. But so you can do and look for some point that you know someplace there. It's usually labeled 19950.37. ID, the endpoint of that. You know that's not right. It looks right elevation-wise. But it is not right left and right-wise. So you want it to be, it's not even close when you look at it. I guess it's probably not so bad. I'm going to try it again. You want it to be at 199.50 ID, the end of that, and it's a little bit over. So you're going to make a guess here. It's probably not right, but your best guess is you're going to move it 1,000 feet. Left click spacebar at 1,000 at an angle of 180. And now again you check. You can look over here. That should be at 185 ID, the endpoint. It's not, but that doesn't necessarily, you have to realize that might not be right because of the way the labeling goes. You find something you know, ID, the endpoint of that, and you're looking at 204. It's still not correct. So you're going to go out one more time. This is supposed to be 19950 and 983.669. So let's double check the elevation. ID, the endpoint. 993.65. And if you notice there, that label is letting you saying that it's supposed to be a certain elevation and it in fact is not. So we're going to try one more. Right here on the end is a reasonable one. ID, the end point of that. 213.645837, and it's supposed to be 1017, and you're off by 1,000 up and down. So somehow you're off by, it should be 1007, so you're off 8, you're off by 100. That can be all these settings. You really want to do what now? Get things in the right spot. So you work at it, you work at it, you work at it. And unfortunately, it doesn't always go as smooth. That is a reason to begin just at an even station, I will say, if you really are getting kind of fed up with putting things in the right spot. So you can write things around, you can move them around. In other words, it's best easy to move these things up and down. I'm going to try it one more time. ID, the end point of that. It should be 1007, so I need to go down 100, so you'd move the whole profile. Left click spacebar, move at 100, angle 270. Go back and check. ID, the end point of that one. 1007 point at. Now, not a bad thing. You can do this. You can just also do a line from the end point there, right, to the next point being 20914.21, comma 0, if you would. That's absolute. And then the next point at 1,000,000, angle 90. And you should see a line right there to where you've got to move everything. So I'm going to go ahead and move this now. Probably best to take something, erase that out. Draw a line from the end point here, perpendicular to that. And now go ahead and move this whole thing. You're going to the base principal's office, F, to move. You can change your B for base point. Your base point would be, the starting base point would be the end point there. Your ending end point would be the end point there. And even though it's a lot of work, it is important. I'm going to do undo, erase too much, undo, undo. It is important to get things kind of laid out right before you go into design. Later on, you're going to see there's probably some sense that we shouldn't have made it our alignments so close, but we can now again check maybe a number that we trust a little bit more. And this point, you can just kind of go close. You can do ID, I'm going to zoom in here to that point, and boy, that looks right, 960, and that's what I did wrong on my 100. It starts to make sense. All right, so that was a good 10 minutes is figuring out, putting things in the right spot. You now want to go ahead and hit File. Don't forget to save. Your design is pretty much almost, kind of, sort of, maybe done. In the fact that you're going to now put in some Z constraints, some nice things you want to match to. Again, with the circle, right away you want to think about this, come into this, and it is not proposed, it is existing. And you can erase out a lot of those labels and a lot of these. And this as well is not proposed, it is existing. So you can erase some of these labels out, and you can right away change this to, even though it's a proposed, in your sense it is existing, and that you're kind of go to it, you're shooting towards it. You can put it on another layer, whatever else. You're going to want to eventually design through this intersection because you're matching it, and you're going to probably want to end up someplace there. You'd like to go and start thinking about your stations and whatever else. I'm just going to go beginning to end because now you're ready for the Create Surface Profile. Before you go ahead and do, Profile Creation Tools. Before you do that, it's probably a great idea to get some things on Z constraints, like a circle at the end of the pavement. That might be one. Another circle at the end of the pavement. You can see all those points there. And in reality, you probably like a line back at the start of your alignment, line from the end of that, from at least what you do F8, or better yet, at 1000 at an angle of 90. So now as you go through, you'll be able to do some things like this, line from the center of this to the center of that, and then extend, screw that, through, extend, screw that, and you've kind of got what is going to be your tangent coming out of here. So that's got a good spot there. You really would like to have that reversed, left click, spacebar, rotate 180. If you think about the way that went, you necessarily don't need those lines, but they're not bad ones to have around. But you definitely have a point now, circle, at the end point here that you're going to be able to target in a second. These you can leave around. You can probably get rid of that, and in the end you also might want to come back down to that one. So for now we're going to go ahead and just extend, kind of think about drafting this. You can start thinking about not wanting to be less than 4%, perhaps in a design like this. So you can go to the end point here, a line from the end point here, and you can say now at minus 200, and you want to go up at 4%, that would be 8 or 80, so 80. So that gets you a general sense there. That's 4%, so that's actually not too bad. You can do all kinds of different designs. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and then go a line from the end of here at 200, at minus 200, minus 40. And then I might finally want to do something that I can extend out from here. So I'm going to finish this off real quick. You're kind of designing out, easily done, probably better done in AutoCAD commands or tools. Extend, screw that. Right, you kind of got a logical point there. I'm going to put some points. I'm going to do with a line from the end point there. This is why, in fact, you might have done it on paper and got some good general approximations. So we've got some things reasonable. The next thing will be to make the profile. This is just a bunch of drafting. Thanks for listening.